Are we ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
This is the end of an era, y'all. When did we start this?
Let me pull that up real quick.
A year ago?
This is like June of 2021.
Let's see.
I kind of had a moment.
I think that was the first. It was in June of 2021.
I had a moment, so I had to put on fucking.
June 7th, 2021.
So
damn.
18 months.
Hell yeah.
That's all right.
Like I was saying, I had a moment. I had to put on Dress to Kill on my way over here. I was kind of like, "Aw."
Well, we can talk about that when we get going. Are you ready to start this one?
Let's start this one.
You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
A kiss, as defined by Dan Webster, is something pleasing, a caress, a gentle touch. But there's another kiss that isn't in Webster's.
Hey world, we're Kiss!
Some critics say they don't make music, they just make noise.
Yeah, Kiss sucks!
Kiss implies the extreme in the theatrics on stage, utilizing fire and smoke and bizarre costumes, and the ever-consistent, constant concealment of their true identities.
Speaking of which, Kiss is going to have its own comic book soon.
Take Kiss with you. It's fun. Show your friends and be the first. Now.
Oh my God, no time to turn!
And welcome once again to No Time to Turn, a Kiss Nerd podcast.
Nerds.
Forever and ever. Joining
me as always is Cap and Alex from the Something Good Network.
Yo.
And there's if you enjoy this podcast, you'll probably enjoy the other ones. There's
cryptids. I'll do monster movies. I'll do monster movie episodes. We'll talk our movies we've been watching and stuff like that too.
Yeah. So what you've got this Something Good For You show. You've got the Couch Potato show. You've got the
Cryptid Conspiracy Cult. Yeah, and then soon there's going to be a serious take for a history type show.
Yep,
happening also.
Well, we'll tease that later. This is the final episode of No Time to Turn. We have reached the quote unquote end of the road. We have chronicled the history of this band in our own little way, and I really appreciate people that have been joining us for the ride. It's been surprising how far reaching this thing has grown.
I know. I've been getting a lot of feedback on this one,
but we're not quite to the end yet. We got one last show here. There's still a lot of ground to cover, but I
also want to say, huge thanks to everyone that has been tuning in, because I think both Russ and I at different points kind of looked at like the numbers and like kind of looked at the shares of people and even the direct comments and messages we got and went, we never expected it to reach this kind of audience. Like we were kind of just doing it for us because it would be nice, but seeing the fact that even more than one person outside of this table enjoyed it just like really made me happy. So seriously, thank you guys for tuning in and enjoying this.
Internationally at that.
I know, it's amazing.
That's pretty cool. But let's see here. Where are we going to pick up? We just talked about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and that was in 2014. They toured that same year, but it just seems like coming out of the farewell tour, they've had to struggle with regaining their kind of mainstream acceptance.
Yeah.
They've pulled kind of a bait and switch tactic. They said, "Hey, we're farewell tour," and then of course they come back, and not only do they come back with basically a new lineup, just dressed up like Ace and Peter.
Yeah.
This was a difficult pill to swallow for a lot of people, and I think it really hurt their standing. And we've talked about how they ended up playing stuff like state fairs and the rodeo festival and just weird stuff. And it seems like, and obviously I'm sure they're getting paid pretty well for that, but really it's not the same as headlining, prestige venues in marquee markets. It's not really the same thing when you're doing the Houston Livestock Festival. I know that's a big thing, and I know they do big bands there, and I know but it's still just doesn't seem to have the same ring when you're doing 5 nights.
It's like
at Madison Square Garden,
and it's a band that you put on a pedestal because of all that, and then you see them doing things like this. Like the reunion show, for example, was was as big as like 1977 as a reimagining of 1977, and it worked, and they became pop culture staples, and that put a big shiny value on them in the Kiss community. Like, I can only speak for, like, you know, folks my age and stuff like that. We're like, oh man, this band still rules, they still kick ass, blah blah blah. And then you see them do all this, and that kind of devalues them in a way too as you get older. At least that's how it was for me.
Now, do you have any notes in there for the tail end of 2014?
Yeah. Okay. But I'm just making note that, you know, that they, for this kind of 15-year stretch between, or 14-year stretch, or whatever it is, you know, we've seen them have some, they're not even doing, they're touring, but they're not really tours. We see them doing stretches of shows where they'll do a run, take time off, and pick up and do another run, and they're still umbrellaing it under the same tour title, whatever. Yeah. And then we saw them do the Monster Tour. We saw, that was the one with Motley Crue, right? See,
the Motley Crue one was right before the Monster Tour.
Okay, yeah, that was the tour.
All they had was Hell and Hallelujah.
That was their most successful run since the farewell tour.
That had the cool spider stage for like the first half of the tour.
Yeah, which is the coolest stage I think they've probably ever had.
Yeah, only because technology's on their side.
If they
obviously had that kind of technology in the 70s,
it was buggy. It didn't buggy. The spider stage was buggy.
Now, when was the?
I didn't even mean to do that until I said it.
It's not a bug. It's an arachnid.
Oh my god!
Kiss Nerd Podcast. So in 2014, we saw them get inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In June, they embarked on a co-headlining tour with Def Leppard. So this formula they did with Motley Crue, they decided to do again because it worked so well with Motley Crue. They're doing it with Def Leppard, and this seems like a pretty good deal for the average fair weather music fan.
Yeah,
but it also suggests to me, anyway, that neither act are really in a position to stage a headlining arena tour on their own.
Yeah.
Which may or may not be accurate. But these summer package deals, they're becoming more commonplace for these big outdoor amphitheaters.
Just did one, actually.
Well, that's different. They did the stadium tour. We'll talk about that in a minute because this is a moderately successful tour. I don't know. I guess this is on par with the Motley Crue tour. I've only seen, and I've got limited information available, but it seemed to me that there was at least 3 sold out dates, including Detroit, because Detroit loves them some Kiss. But this is still, you know, who's the draw on this? Is it Kiss as the headliner, or is it's a package deal? And I think it's really just that it's the package deal. You know.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't you trying to see them on this tour?
Definitely no, because it was Motley Crue and Poison. But I think what he's saying is that, like, you know,
no, he's talking about this tour in 2000.
Oh no, I saw them. I saw it on YouTube, actually.
Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to get tickets for this at one point. Gotcha. Okay.
So no,
that's a notable date on this tour on July 19th here in our hometown of Charlotte. That show was live streamed on Yahoo, and I'm unaware, and someone correct me here, was it just Kiss or was it both bands?
I'm pretty sure it was both bands. I remember like the Charlotte show being associated with that. Maybe it was through a VH1 Classic thing or something like that.
I thought it was only Kiss. I remember it happening. I didn't watch it. I just, you know, this is where, you know,
I saw some of it.
My breakdown in fandom and my claim to nerddom probably fails is because at this point I was just kind of checked out. I didn't want to see that.
Actually, that was the exact moment that kind of turned me out too, you know?
And oddly enough, in this era, after seeing the tour and just kind of having such a sour taste in my mouth, I kind of did go on a Kiss sabbatical, but I did kind of like move on again because I've definitely gone through an ebb and flow with my fandoms at different times of being like more of a hardcore fan, like kind of closer to I am now, and other times where I've more distanced myself. And after that show, I kind of distanced myself a little bit. And then oddly enough, by the time this happened, where I was in my life, I wasn't paying attention to Kiss. Like, I had a lot more important things going on in my life to pay attention to what Kiss was doing.
Well, they weren't promoting anything. There was nothing to promote, which, you know, they're touring. It's kind of a formula that has been working for them. It puts them in the echelon of that
an ever-present touring band that's never going to go away.
The summer tour circuit that these bands are finding themselves in, you know.
And it's classic. It's that classic rock, you know, Journey, Foreigner circuit.
Yeah. Yep.
They're not putting up. They're not being, you know, in the '90s they were playing with more contemporary bands, for better or worse.
We knock Kiss for having the replacement guys dressed up as Ace and Peter. We're not knocking them for having replacement guys. We knock them because it just shows a complete lack of, any kind of creativity or anything to have but I understand it. It's because they're establishing the brand. But to their credit, they're not Foreigner, who are touring literally with no members. Mick Jones is the only original member, and he only makes certain gigs.
Now, with that debate, though, with Foreigner, there's no pin-up members or anything like that. Well,
that's a point. That's the point. Again, going back, what makes Kiss special? What makes them different? What makes them separate? What elevates them above the pack was because they were identifiable, individual identifiable member. They are not Foreigner. They are not even Def Leppard, and I'm not shitting on those bands. I may be shitting on Foreigner a little bit because that's a really fucking cynical way of doing business, but that's what it is now. It's business. It's the music business. It's always been the music business, and I understand that there is a business quotient to it, but there also needs to be a certain kind of aesthetic element to it.
That doesn't fly in the boardroom.
I know that's always been the great disconnect between
the music and the business.
And that goes back to again what we were talking about in the last episode with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, there is the business aspect that needs to be paid attention to because that has to be the bottom line needs to be met. But there also is this sort of heightened sense of importance of what it is that you're doing. I mean, is there some sort of, I hate the word art. I think rock and roll is art is the same as it's disposable art, like a refrigerator magnet. But
listen to Stephen Van Zandt say the exact same thing the other day. Like when Sgt. Pepper's came out, rock and roll became art.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know that there's very much rock and roll that you can say truly elevates to the level of art.
Velvet Underground?
Well, the Velvets maybe, but some Patti Smith stuff maybe, even some Springsteen stuff maybe. Kiss does on a different level, but I wouldn't call it. It would be more like pop art. It was, it would, but just fine. And it's okay to be disposable art. That's part of what in some weird way, for the best of it, it endures in spite of itself.
Hey, Twinkies will outlast us all.
That's right, a Twinkie. There you go. So,
something to note though on this tour, a pretty interesting set list. So I'm just pulling from the Charlotte date because by this point Kiss is not changing it up. But for a few tours they were kind of changing it up every 5 or 6 shows. They kind of swap out a song. Yeah. They weren't really doing it by this point.
Man, you know what?
So at least, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say with them playing the songs that they did, the moment that made me quit Kiss for a while was them opening with Psycho Circus.
I was just about to say that. So July 19th, 2014, their set list was Psycho Circus.
It's like, why?
Well, I mean,
Deuce. And then Shout It Out Loud, War Machine, Hotter Than Hell, Love It Loud, Lick It Up, God of Thunder, Hide Your Heart.
Oh, bizarre.
Cold Gin, Love Gun, Black Diamond, Detroit, Rock and Roll All Night.
You think it's because they're playing with the Motley Crues and the Def Leppards and getting on packages that are, really 80s packages, even those cruises?
I don't think they didn't really sell enough. Hide Your Heart wasn't that big song for them. I could see them even doing something from Crazy Nights before I would see them doing something from Hot in the Shade, or doing Forever. Which again, I
just find it odd that they opened with Psycho Circus, and they also had Hide Your Heart.
But a couple of years before, they were opening with Modern Day Delilah, which is a song that no one knew. They're opening their show with a song that was like, I mean, that's got to be an awkward opener.
Think about this. Nothing from Sonic Boom or Monster on this tour, or at least on this show.
Did they ever play anything besides Hell or Hallelujah live?
Mm-hmm.
They were doing, I forget which album was which. We talked about, they were doing the song Say Yeah, but what album
that's from Monster.
That's from Sonic Boom.
See, no one cares.
I brought up an idea about us doing our top 5 or maybe top 3 least favorite Kiss albums.
I could easily rattle them off right this very second.
Oh my God, me too.
Well, I mean, I don't think I can quantify it.
We can pick one probably at the end of it.
Lick It Up, Animalize Asylum, easy.
On August 2nd in Atlantic City, Phil Collin of Def Leppard joins the band for Deuce, and he wears parts of Paul's costume, including boots.
Only the second time a outside member of a band has ever joined Kiss on stage.
Joe Perry.
Joe Perry, yeah.
Also joined was he wearing Ace's boots? I don't remember. Paul's boots.
Which, also, before we move on from that, fun urban legend to debunk. Do you remember, because we're both Ramones fans, do you remember the rumor that Johnny joined the band at one point and played rock and roll radio?
No, I heard that.
That was a rumor that circulated for a minute, that it was like some private gig or whatever, that like video cameras weren't allowed, and they played rock and roll radio and Johnny joined them on stage. But like since then, both Johnny and Kiss's camp have denied that. But that was, I remember that being a rumor for a minute.
Never heard that. Phil Collin had been a member of an English group called Girl.
With Paul Cook from the Sex Pistols, right?
No. No, it was, but the singer from Girl was Phil Lewis, who would later join LA Guns. And on their debut album in 1980, if I have that info right, they do a cover of Do You Love Me? I've had that record. I was not particularly enamored with it. I was hoping it to be pretty cool, and it wasn't that great. But I remember hearing about that and never hearing it. I always knew that it existed. I knew it was out there, but I never had the desire to seek it out. Found the record one day, took it home, and it was okay. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Also, Joe Elliott,
so Elliott puts it.
Joe Elliott of Def Leppard reportedly does some of the You Wanted the Best intros in some cities, which I think is pretty kind of cool, actually. I think, he gets off on it, you know. I obviously, these guys are fans.
I was going to say.
It's interesting they're in the opening slot on this, too. I would think, Def Leppard, having been so much more popular than Kiss in the 80s, would have been sustained through to do the headlining slot. That's why I'm thinking this co-headlining thing has worked well for them.
Only because there's not a chance for us to bring it up again. This is our last episode. I'm very, very shocked that Kiss has not made a package to where you can actually purchase the chance to do the intro.
That's actually,
how cool would that
be? Because
That
note, around this era, they are selling literally everything. Paul is selling his microphone, his guitar. Gene is selling the fire sword, his basses, the guitar straps. Everything they play on stage is immediately sold off afterward. And Tommy and Eric aren't immune for it either. Tommy's selling his guitars. Eric's selling his either drum skins or the whole snare after shows. I mean, they are pumping out their gear every show. So I'm surprised they hadn't had a thing of like, for X amount of dollars, show up this time before the show, get coached on how to properly say it, run it through a few times, and then do it at the show.
And then the meet and greets and everything else.
I'm surprised they've not monetized that section.
That's that's I'm sitting here going,
Gene.
If I had the money, I would probably pay to do that. That'd be fun to do.
Because they would give them some coaching. Make sure they built it. Make sure they didn't give a
Have
weak
you ever
intro.
heard any of the there was a point in the late 70s, it was on the Dynasty tour, and I don't know who's doing the intro, and it wasn't I don't think it was Eddie Belandez, is that how you say his name, who does it on it's split on a live too. It's you wanted the best, you got the best husband in the world is Eddie Belandez, but the Kiss
Gene.
is Gene. It was overdubbed. But at some point, they seem to have a hang up with their own name, Kiss, and they felt like it sounded too much like piss. And if you go back and listen to some of these bootlegs, he says, you wanted the best, you got the best, the hottest band in the world, Kiss. Kiss. Like it's really weird sounding. Y'all can go find that.
I
in
like
time.
the early bootlegs where it really does sound like the hottest band in the land. Piss.
It's just really short. Kiss.
I think it's kind of hard to. I don't know. That just doesn't connect to me, but whatever. In November, they embark on another Kiss cruise, followed by a 9-date residency at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas. And these shows are professionally taped and released as a DVD and album with the creative title Kiss Rocks Vegas. And this is their last DVD release to date.
That was one of those that you found at Walmart, and you're like, oh. That's cool, I guess.
Yeah,
I will say, I actually saw this in theater because the girl I was dating at the time.
They did a theater release on this too?
Yeah, they did one of those Fathom event things. And the girl I was with at the time, she was like, oh, you're a big Kiss fan. Let's go see it. And she's like, wasn't connecting the fact that I was like, no, I'm like really not interested in seeing this lineup or this era. But it's on the big screen. I know, but like, it's still Kiss. I know. Well, I'd like to see it.
Oh, man.
Okay. So it's like I actually went to the Fathom event to see this, but the thing is I felt like you, Russ, the entire time because the sound, this specific theater, the sound system was not set up for like a live showing of music. So the sound was horrible. It was like no mids whatsoever and very little bass and a lot of treble. So it's like, and it sounded like they tried to do that weird surround sound thing, but this like setup wasn't made for surround sound, yet that's like the signal that was being sent in because it's like guitars had weird panning, vocal kind of cut in weird spots. So it's like the viewing experience was not all that great, and that was outside of the performance.
I was going to say, like a live concert in a movie theater sounds and looks super awkward.
In the right setting, like when we saw the Kissology Volume 1 thing where they aired the 75 show, that was really good. The sound was really nice there. And that's what I was kind of hoping with this, but just even a better experience considering it was modern technology with the audio and video. No, not at all.
I don't talk about I haven't talked about this a lot on the show, but with the one time that I saw Kiss, I had that exact same reaction. A buddy of mine was like, I got Kiss tickets if you want to go, because they were papering them out. I'm like, at first I'm like, but then in the back of my mind, I go, it's fucking Kiss, just go.
Yeah.
So I had that exact same feeling, going like, oh man, this lineup. And
I will say though, I don't know, Russ, if you've taken a look at any of the video from the show at all.
I've watched it.
Okay.
I've watched some of it too.
I like the stage. I thought it was a really good use of the video monitors kind of above people's heads and stuff like that, like considering it was something that was just going to be stuck there for a long time. And I thought Paul's flying rig was pretty cool because he landed kind of on like a catwalk balcony. So it was kind of a pretty decent use of the room, I thought.
Man, and it's one of those things that isn't talked about enough. We talk about Paul Stanley's vocal issues. At least Gene is still kind of carrying the band with his leads.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Gene never did anything to ruin his voice. All his stuff was in a low register.
Clean living.
He kind of did his monster hollering thing live, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've only suspected based on what we've read that the heart issue thing
could be an issue.
Right. I forgot about that.
In 2015, with nothing to promote.
Oh, real quick, at the very end, of 2014, I want to make note of this, mainly because it was such a bizarre moment in history, and something that the band, specifically Paul, has outright like slammed after the fact. And I remember watching this live when it happened. I can barely see. November 27th, New York City, the Macy's Day Parade.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Yes. So, here's the backstory.
I saw this one too.
I think I might have seen this.
So, interesting backstory behind this. So, what happened was Kiss was slated to be part of the Macy's Day Parade for Thanksgiving. And it was another, they kind of chalk it up to a Kiss Meets the Phantom kind of thing. They were presented, and I've seen the sketches, they were presented this float that had a Gibson Les Paul and a Iceman on it. And they were going to be on the float performing Rock and Roll All Night. And that it was going to be like this big setup, all this thing. And when they got there, they basically had the size of like a tractor trailer pickup that they were allowed to stand on with a couple little metal pillars. And they were like, perform. And they're like, no.
Not perform, quote unquote, perform.
Yeah. And they're like, no, you're still going to do it. And they gave the most half-ass lip sync performance
so awful
you've ever seen in your life.
I think I've seen this, but I've just kind of blocked it out of my brain.
It's so awkward. It's so weird. I remember watching it live on TV and just being like, holy shit. It's such a weird moment in history.
I wonder if it was bad and then they tried to do damage control by saying, oh, well, this, that, and the other, Like, I just have a hard time imagining them going into anything without full gusto. I think they had to have been aware. Again, this is a media moment. You're in front of it's not just the people that are in wherever in front of Macy's, wherever they stage the main, where they film the broadcast the parade from. It's nationwide television. It's people sitting at home on Thanksgiving Day and they're all watching it because it's on.
But you know what me and my other friends that love Kiss said? The fuck? What? Okay.
I don't know because you said you hadn't really watched it. Rewatch it.
No.
It really is one of those moments where it's like,
I remember it was bad.
Well, I'm saying when you watch the nuance of it and with the context of this wasn't what they expected, you kind of see it. I really don't think they're trying to change the history on that. Because there is something else that we're going to talk about in this episode that was a deal gone very bad. So they're not immune to bad situations and bad business deals, even all the way up to the end of 2020 into 2021.
Well, in 2015, with nothing to promote, the band embarks on another summer tour. This is called the Freedom to Rock Tour, which sounds very cheap. Yeah. This is just a cheap ring to it. Sounds like a bad
Ted Nugent song
or a bad beer commercial, Budweiser, freedom to rock, hell yeah. And compared to the joint runs they had with Motley Crue and Def Leppard respectively, this doesn't quite do the same numbers. And from the info I can find online, the average attendance was about 6,000 people a night, which is basically back to their same business that they endured in the 80s. So they have their core audience of dedicated fans. It's augmented by a general fair weather fan out to see a rock show on a summer night, I guess. But
yeah, and this entire year is spent overseas too.
Well, this is in 2015.
Yeah.
Well, in 2017.
Well, real quick, not to move away from 15 real quick. One other interesting thing to note I'd like to talk about. July 10th, 2015, we got Scooby-Doo and Kiss, Rock and Roll Mystery.
Oh, man. I remember when this was happening, too.
I never even bothered to watch that.
Did you not?
No.
Oh, come on, Rob.
I only watched it because you had it that one time.
Yes, I did. Because you know what? Take away the idea. Like, let's take Tommy and Eric out of the picture. That is what it is. Okay.
I know.
Kiss and Scooby-Doo. They created an actually pretty decent story. They kind of ripped off Phantom of the Park and rewrote the story some. And in an animated feature with Scooby-Doo and the gang, it actually worked.
Scooby-Doo and the gang.
See, I was also like 29 or something like this.
Shut the fuck up, Cap. You can't fucking cartoon shame me. I'm not having it.
Well, there's a lot of people that insist that Kiss were on an episode of Scooby-Doo back in the 70s, which isn't true. There was a character that had
similar face
similar, and as to whether or not they influenced that is hard to say, being the time frame. But here they're actually on the show. I will
say it's an enjoyable special. If you go into it expecting, don't expect the greatest thing in the world.
So
exactly.
I don't have a problem with it. Now, the other thing that's notable about that, and I'm glad you brought it up because I kind of forgot. That's the last recorded new song that they have done.
Don't touch my ascot.
Which is.
What about the Japanese release that they did?
This happens afterward.
Oh, okay.
So part of the reason they're actually overseas doing some of these runs is they did a collab.
Yeah.
As the kids say.
Collaboration with...
do you want to give a whack at the name, Russ?
No, I don't, because I remember seeing it. This is like... is it? For some reason, I had it in my head it was like a K-pop thing.
Kind of,
but it's the Japanese. What do they call that? There's a name for that.
J-rock
or J-rock.
Oh, I thought it was the. What do they call that? Idols.
I don't think Idols.
Or what do they call that? There's
Idols
a word.
Is a band.
There's even a documentary movie about it. It's like middle-aged men give these little girls all this lavish attention and money, and like it's like their parents try to hope these girls get. There's a name for it. They're teen. It's really bizarre. It's a bizarre. I mean, Japanese has some interesting stuff in their culture, and this is one of the colorful.
Yeah,
that's a way to
There's
put it.
There's a word for it, and I can't remember. It's not. Maybe it's not Idols. I don't remember, but I thought it was something to tie with that. I remember seeing that one time and went, huh? And
that's a thing.
I just didn't care. I just could not care.
So
less.
the name was easier to pronounce than I thought. It's Morimoto Clover, and they did 3 songs. The English version was a song called Samurai Sun, which had Paul on lead vocal, and they even did a music video for it. Honestly, the video is kind of cool. It's just unfortunate that the song sucks ass, but the visuals are actually pretty cool.
You know what? Hot take. Better song than anything on Monster or Sonic Boom.
You think so?
I think so.
Did you listen to it when I sent it in the group chat?
Yes, I did.
Did you listen to all 3 songs that were on it?
No. I did not.
Okay,
so was this like a boy band or
it's a girl?
Okay, is it part of that Idol thing?
I guess so. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what you're talking of. I don't follow any of this culture whatsoever. I was taking your word on it.
At this point, I'm not really following.
It's one of those flavor of the month.
We know they did it.
Yes, but there's 3 versions of the song. So there's Samurai Sun, and then there's the Japanese version where the girls are singing and Kiss is like singing the backups, which is kind of like the mirror version of the English version. But then there's a song on there called Rock and Roll All Night.
Oh boy.
And from what it's hard to find the info on it, so I could be wrong, but I feel like I remember hearing when they were doing interviews, and a lot of these interviews got taken off YouTube, weirdly enough, like maybe about 2-3 years ago. But I remember listening to one of the interviews, hearing that Paul and Tommy contributed their guitars to it. So it's very interesting hearing, like, I'll just call it J-pop, this weird J-pop version of Rock and Roll All Night, knowing that Paul and Tommy contributed the guitars.
Look up and see if they're considered part of the Japanese Idol thing. Because I'm telling you, that is a big thing over in Japan. It's the
competition singing.
I think it's like a competition thing, and then these girls get promoted, and it's encouraged that their fan base isn't like other teenagers. It's like middle-aged men, and they literally like furnish their apartments and all this stupid stuff. It's really kind of weird subculture over there.
I was talking.
I don't know what you look up, but no, I don't think this. I don't think this is part of it. Looking at their Wikipedia page under genres, it lists them as J-pop and rock.
Yeah, but I didn't know if they were part of the Idol thing.
No, it seems like they are just a traditional old girl band that got together. It says 4 members of MZC are known for energetic performances incorporating elements of ballet, gymnastics, and action moves. They're notable.
What were they called?
Why not?
What were they called?
Let's see. Momoiro Clover Z. So Memorio Clover. Yeah. Weird tangent, but it's still such an odd thing. For Kiss never does collaborations. For them to collaborate with this odd Japanese girl band is kind of interesting.
They're a Japanese idol girl group.
So that's kind of what I guess. That's kind of why I liked it.
Wikipedia. That's the very first thing it says. They're a Japanese idol girl group.
I think I liked it because it was different from anything that didn't sound like 60-year-old Kiss trying to be 23-year-old Kiss.
Well,
you know what I
this
mean?
all.
Okay, I didn't see that very
they're
first
part
top
of the
paragraph.
so they don't normally say things like this to girls your age.
No.
But when I saw you on that Japanese idol show,
that day I knew we'd do a collab.
All right, look, we've already given this way too much.
Well, I will say the last thing on it, completely outside of them, this is the first time lip syncing is ever incorporated in a Kiss live show.
No, it's not.
To this degree, it is, because they did those shows in Japan, and they did. One of them was with this girl band, and as an encore, they came out and played the song. And the entire song was backtracked. Like the entire band wasn't playing.
Oh my god!
And like the entire band was miming along to a backtrack. So it was a very I think that's history important. The entire band mimed along to a backtrack live.
Speaking of collaborations, there's this one moment, and I forget when it was, where Paul Stanley and Ace started recording together again.
Well, they did the
Origins.
Paul played on one song on Ace's solo record.
But I remember it being like a big deal when it happened.
Yeah, that was.
It was like, hey, Ace, I'll help you move a few units.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. That was whatever. They only play 8 dates stateside in 2017 with a run of European dates, and they dubbed this the Kiss World Tour, not the Kiss World Tour, Kiss World Tour. Now, they copyrighted the name Kiss World back in the 70s. Gene had this convoluted idea of a traveling amusement park, like a traveling carnival sideshow that went with their concerts, and they would set up an adjacent. We've talked about this. It was during the Dynasty era, and it just didn't pan out. So I guess they had the name, they needed to use it.
I was like, well, got to stick it on something.
There we go. We'll stick it on this. All of this seems to be writing on the wall, because nobody much cares about this new model Kiss. They do okay when they're packaged with these other larger groups or other groups of their ilk, as a package deal. The Aerosmith tour, the Motley Crue tour, the Def Leppard tour, those were successful. But Kiss on their own hasn't done real well.
I will say, it is interesting, though, for the Kiss World Tour, they did redon their Creatures of the Night Elder as...
So when they brought that back, I remember they did a whole thing on the that Kiss cruise of that year, doing Creatures of the Night.
So at least they were trying to do something different.
Yeah, but then something happens in February of 2018. They file a copyright claim to the phrase "the end of the road," and this immediately starts the rumor mill. Of course, because it's telegraphing an impending farewell tour, a second farewell tour, but a farewell tour nonetheless.
But it's also one of those deals where it's like, everybody knows these guys are like in their 60s at this point.
Well, yeah. And now initially Gene claims to know nothing about it, but Paul immediately pipes in and says it was him. Paul did this. We're going to do this. This is he's already got it in his head.
Yeah.
It doesn't say when. He just wants to make sure that he's got because apparently a copyright claim was filed against them when they toured using the Hottest Show on Earth tour, which I don't think had any real legal legs, but Ringling Brothers came after him saying,
oh shit,
we're the greatest show on earth. And Kessler's like, well, we're the hottest show on earth and whatever. I don't know. But, they're just covering their backside. They're copywriting this for the use of whatever they want to do. but no formal announcement for a final tour has been made at this juncture. In July, they played a handful of dates in Spain with Megadeth. Seems like an odd pairing.
Right.
And in an odd place. But in September of 2018, they appear on America's Got Talent playing Detroit Rock City, and it was at this point they formally announced the End of the Road farewell tour.
What do you think of a name for that tour?
I don't have a problem with it. I just, I remember my first response was, please.
Yeah.
I hope it is.
Yeah.
Let it be the end, because they need to stop. It begins January 21st, 2019, and continues for over a year. And this really, it works. It kicks up their attendance. Not marginally, but exponentially.
Yep.
If this is a ploy to put butts in seats, it works.
This was the run I caught them on.
It ultimately gets suspended in March, I guess, of 2020 because of the COVID pandemic, and then resumes about 18 months later or so, I guess August 18th, 2021, and is continuing to this very present moment. They are still touring under. The last show was announced at one point without a location. A date was announced. I couldn't find. It was July. I think it was July 21st, 2021.
Yeah.
And
heavily rumored to be New York.
Yeah, but there was no location, or tickets were never put on sale. Now this keeps getting pushed back and back and back and back and back.
And then the rumor mill keeps churning about the original lineup once again.
So we kind of breezed that a little bit on the last episode. This is why I say, as much of a fan as I am, I fully believe in what Russ said, and that at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that's going to be, unless by some fucking random chance they literally come out to bow at the very last show, I think that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is going to be the last time that Kiss publicly are in the same room as all four members. Because as time has gone on, we're recording this for posterity in 2022, near the end, November, and we have seen Ace on his most recent tours, video-wise, in my opinion, not that great. He's Ace, but he's not arena-worthy anymore. And Peter,
he's 76 years old.
Yeah, the passion's there, but he's old. There's no polite way to say it. He's old.
He has the heart, but probably not the legs.
He doesn't, and that's no slight on him whatsoever.
No,
but
it's completely understandable.
His time has passed for a drummer, someone that has to be so physical. Mm-hmm. He doesn't do it all the time. And one of the more recent conventions that happened, I think in 2021, I think it was called Creatures Fest. He got invited up to play with some members, and it was great hearing him behind the kit. You could hear Peter's style, but at the same time, to carry a Kiss show.
Yeah, it was a room and a band that he could carry.
And even that, it was barely being carried. Yeah, arena level, he couldn't. So as much, you know what, even if Paul woke up tomorrow, after being visited by Pauls of, Kiss's past and has a complete change of heart.
Love Peter.
Yeah, calls up Peter and Ace is like, I'm so sorry, guys. You know what? I really want you to join us on stage. We'll kick Tommy and Eric off stage. I want you on. I don't think they could physically do it. I really don't.
I agree that Peter couldn't do it, and it feels like with Ace, I feel like in Kiss, even with a fucked up Peter, Ace would probably be somewhat cohesive
Peter sang Beth.
Chemistry.
Unless they got out of the way enough for Peter to sing Beth.
Can I say something at this point?
Yeah, sorry.
I don't think any of the original members can do it anymore.
I mean,
have you seen any of the footage of their current shows?
Well, do we want to talk about the backtracks?
I'm not even talking about the backtracks.
Well, I was saying in general.
I don't even care about the backtracks.
Paul Stanley just can't sing, period
anymore. That he can't, but it's
not at the level that he's going for.
We could note the New Year's Eve pay-per-view from Dubois. Dubai,
Oh my God, yeah.
So yeah,
Dubai, whatever.
so
which is. I mean, that
I do
is
want to talk
so
about that.
bad. I mean, it was just so bad. I think the band themselves have kind of put that to rest.
Well, that's what I want to talk about. So they were hyping up this show big time because unfortunately in the middle of 2020, we were still in lockdown.
Yeah.
Everyone was enjoying
It
their
made
live stream
sense.
things. Yes. So they went to an area in which they were allowed to at least put on this huge show. And one of the selling points is that they were going to set the world record for the most amount of fireworks set off in one sequence. And I think they achieved that.
Well,
And you know what? Hold on. I think that's the only thing they actually achieved on that show, because they were selling the pay-per-view tickets, and along with pay-per-view tickets, they were selling merchandise, physical goods. That was going to be pre-orders for the DVD, the exclusive DVD that was going to come out with it, T-shirts, hats, all the bullshit. Outrageous prices. Number one, the live stream kept skipping.
Yeah,
And to this day, in November 2022, people have yet to receive a fucking T-shirt
No
from
shit.
it. So the companies that they partnered with to get this done completely dropped the ball and have kind of like done a grab the money and run situation. On the most recent Kiss Cruise 11, Dot McGee was actually asked about it once again, because during the cruise I was on, number 10, he was asked about it and just kind of gave we're working with it, you're going to get your stuff, we do apologize, but we want to make sure all the fans get their things. Next, in so many words. This time, he was a lot more open about it and said, we haven't seen the money from that either, so we're either going to issue refunds or offer up something else in its place, but we're going to make sure you guys are taken care of one way or another. So everyone got hosed on that entire deal.
Fuck.
Yeah,
And
that's why I was saying. I was saying there with the
Meanwhile-
Macy's Day Parade, they've not been immune to these bad business deals all the way up to the end of 2020.
And I saw it on YouTube a day later, so
Yeah.
I win.
Yeah, that was the other thing too. It was supposed to be an exclusive paid pay-per-view where like the cheapest ticket was like $50. Literally the night of, you could watch it on YouTube for free.
Yeah, like the whole thing, and it was like, oh, it's
And
just,
no one was taking it down.
No.
Nothing. It's
Plus it was-
still up there.
and it was exactly what I expected. Same old Kiss.
Yeah. Just, I find it also funny that in between songs you can hear an audience.
Well, I'm sure. Well, there's people watching. It was staged outside of a hotel. There's people in the watching. I'm sure from the balcony. I'm sure people flew to Dubai to see that.
Absolutely. But if you listen,
I know, there's
I
people
listen to
watching.
everything
There's people present to watch it. It's not a paid
absolutely.
audience, but whatever.
But
here's the
when
thing.
I listen to, because I listen to everything with headphones because it's on my phone. You listen to those headphones, it's a audience. It's not a smattering of people hanging out their hotel rooms
I don't
clapping.
know. I don't know.
You know what they should have done? They should have sold the pay-per-view as them unmasked.
You know what they should have done? They should have broke up in 1979.
Yes, but on the Kiss cruises, the only fun part that's kind of fun to watch about the Kiss cruises is them playing the deep cuts without makeup
And
on.
they don't do that anymore.
They don't? They didn't do that on this
Hey,
run?
let's not go into that. Russ is getting cranky because he hadn't talked in a minute.
No. I'm just. I mean, it all kind of comes back to that same point of seeing a band, and I argued in the early part of this series that Kiss would, I think, still have been a successful band even if they had not employed the theatrics, because of the sheer physicality of their performance. They were very a high energy band, probably more so than most. There's, and I always go back, there's footage of them playing in early 76, so it's still pre-Destroyer, but it's black and white camcorder footage from the early days of camcorder, and you can't really see their makeup or their costumes and stuff. I mean, you kind of can, but it's black and white. It's kind of furry, but the performance has an energy to it that transcends. It transcends over into the video realm, which it's a great performance. Watching them now, it's the opposite. It's like they're not relying on their theatrics in that point. The theatrics in 1975, 76 augment what they do. Now they are relying on the stage because they are not physical performers. In which case, they're old. Okay, yeah. I get it. But we've talked about this before. Paul having hip surgery. That's nature's way of saying stop. Gene is just, he talks about, well, Mick Jagger couldn't strut around in 80 pounds worth of gear. Well, guess what? Now Gene Simmons can't either because he just stands there lock-legged. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to watch for me. All of it. It's just bad. They are not good performers anymore because they can't perform. They're playing, but they're playing with no energy or heart or passion. There's no drive. It's just clocking in, collecting a paycheck, clogging out.
Because I know you have absolutely no interest in seeing anything this current lineup does, so I don't bother. We've got a group chat on Facebook where we send like Kiss nerd shit every so often. But on this most recent Kiss cruise, the handful of deep cuts they chose to pick were actually off Rock and Roll Over, and they played Love 'Em or Leave 'Em for the first time in forever. So I sent that in the chat because I was just like, that would be interesting for C. Russ's point.
And I responded with 3 words: that was bad.
I haven't watched it yet, but I'm also sitting there going like, there's no way it's good.
It just hurts to watch. It just hurts to watch.
I know.
And that's why I think, this end of the road thing, it's a good idea if they actually stop. It doesn't seem like they know where to stop. But the demand is there because for some inexplicable reason, people are paying for it. They're coming and they're doing big numbers. It's like people are going to see it. And it's like, what is it that drives this? And all I can think of is, it's age. Because we talked about in the previous episode, I saw this term, the rock era. And this music, which used to be youth music, is now senior citizen music.
Dad rock. Yeah.
And it's like, that's who's going to see it. And,
well, so it's like, to even comment on that, Kiss Cruise 11 that just happened during Paul's Q&A, he was asked, are you going to come back to Australia? Now, bear in mind, at the time of recording this, they just got back from Australia maybe, 3 months ago, roughly? Yeah. And they were hyping it up, we're here to say goodbye, this, that, and the other,
And now it's like, oh, we're definitely going back.
Dude, during that Q&A, someone asked, are you going to come back to Australia? And he goes, well, the funny thing is about that. And goes into this long-ass thing talking about how they've done the final tour, but that doesn't mean they won't come back to do a show or something like that. He goes, so, this may be the end of the road tour, but we just keep paving the road in front of us.
Shut the fuck up, Paul.
Yeah, well,
and the people that don't want us to succeed, well, they just don't like us.
Well, guess what? And my response is, you're right. I don't like you. I don't like what you're doing to my memories. I have just as much vested interest in this as the people that do like you. I'm sorry, but guess what? You're creating a divisiveness within your own fan base, and I'm sorry to say, and I'm ashamed to say,
in that room,
right? Yeah. I don't identify with those people. I don't get it. How can you enjoy that? How can you look at that and say to yourself, "Yeah, that's great," because it's not great. It's awful. How can anyone look at what they're doing right now and say, "Yeah, fuck yeah, man, that's killer"? That version of Love 'Em and Leave 'Em, man. It's like, oh my God, I'm just ashamed of it.
Making Love, I watched the recent version of, and it's just like, why even bother?
It's so bad now. And when they do that, to me, it's like reinforcing all of the negativity that people that never like Kiss it gives them all the more credence because they're just proven.
Now you always have to preface it, be like, "Yeah, I'm a Kiss fan." Like early Kiss fan.
Kiss, when they were still good.
Yeah, it's like you always have to lead it as like being a Star Wars fan. Yeah, I'm a Star Wars fan. The original movies. Yes. I like the original Star Wars.
But and I don't know how true that is of other bands. Like we just saw this summer tour with Motley Crue and Def Leppard. This is a tour stadium tour, Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, and Joan Jett, right?
Yeah.
That couldn't have happened 10 years ago and had any kind of success. And I doubt that they're going to be able to pull this off in another 10 years. It's hard to say. But, this is where we've reached.
But that tour did pretty well.
It did real well. That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't have done well 10 years ago because we saw Motley Crue and Kiss package, but they weren't stadiums. Kiss and Def Leppard package. But I'm wondering if they're not sitting there, Doc McGee's sitting there scratching his chin going, Kiss and Bon Jovi with another hair metal band.
You know what they're thinking.
They're absolutely thinking that.
What's a couple years away?
50th anniversary. Well, no,
we're
already at 50 though.
No,
next year
they formed in 23.
Yeah,
or they formed in 73. Yeah, and the first album was 74.
So next summer, 73,
50th anniversary. 74. They're gonna push that 50-year anniversary, man,
and people will fucking go.
And stadiums with
That's my prediction. They're going to push that 50 because look at it. The world made them pause when they were trying to stop, and now so much time has passed where they're like, shit, if we can just milk this for the next couple years, we can really end it off on a big 50th anniversary 2023 24.
But if they toured with Bon Jovi, who would headline?
Why do you think Bon Jovi? I mean, they toured with a painter.
I'm just thinking. Well, that's true, but I'm just trying to think.
If you're gonna do a Kiss version of the stadium tour or whatever,
if you go out next summer with basically the same stadium tour that just happened, it's bound to not do as well because everyone just saw it.
Yeah, you gotta do something different. Tour with
you have to give it some breathing space, so they have to vary it. So it'd have to be Kiss. I could see, maybe Kiss and Motley Crue, or maybe Kiss and Def Leppard, but I would see something more like it's got to be its own unique thing, a complete different package.
I might see it if they did Kiss and Alice Cooper. That would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, they could do that.
Live Nation.
But it would have to still, they would have to add, I'm saying for a stadium though, they'd have to make it stadium worthy. It'd have to be other bands that can do stadium,
Alice Cooper could probably.
That's what I'm saying.
You could put them with Iron Maiden, but who would headline that? Because Iron Maiden still does better business than
way
Kiss.
More than Kiss still.
So, it's a tricky business to try to put that together. But Kiss is doing really well on this tour, so the demand is there, and you could, if you did a stadium tour, part of what would be the selling point is, the stadium is a no-fly zone. We're going to blow up the sky. It's Kiss, blah, blah, blah. But they're still going to come out there and do the same shitty show, and people are still going to think it's good for some goddamn reason or another, even though
it's Kiss.
It's not, though. It's not even approximation of Kiss now. You're going to see more energy and passion off of a Kiss tribute band that plays at your local bar than you're going to see from Kiss. They're not going to have the staging. They're not going to have the production, but they're probably going to play better, sing better, have more energy and more passion. They're going to be more into what they're doing than the band themselves are. I don't get it. I'm lost here because I don't understand how we got to this point. I don't understand. I feel no relationship or kinship whatsoever to the Kiss Army anymore. I don't see how they can see through this and go, yeah, this is acceptable. I don't have a problem with the merchandising. I don't have a problem with them selling or not selling t-shirts or whatever that didn't come with their, I understand that stuff, but at this point it's just playing, the physicality of playing, you're boring, even with the lights and the flash. I don't personally care for the stage they've used on this tour, but that's neither here nor there either, because that's just me.
I will say Sam T Serpent made a reappearance.
Well, that's great.
And over the last couple shows, they've gotten castings of those Destroyer Panthers.
That's fine. That's great.
Well,
but guess what?
I'm tiny things.
Right.
I have to at least give credit
those
on
are
the
nice
tiny
little.
things.
Those are nice embellishments. But you know what? They're still. I mean, and I'm looking at Gene. Gene can still sing, but he just stands there, lock-legged, and he looks bored. And I'm like, if you're bored, if you're not, just stop, man. Go ahead and cash in that final lay down the card, the final show, and go away. You know,
go do your vault, do an acoustic tour. Gene clearly still loves to play.
No, that's where we're ending at here. Is now, where do we go from here? It's like, what do you think? Okay, this is a supposition. They stop. They actually stop. Okay. We'll say 2023, 50th anniversary. They've reached a good, solid, even number. As I'm big on even numbers, 40th show here.
Yeah.
They stop. what next? Where do they go as individuals? What do you
Cap
expect?
go first,
what do
because
you
I have a
expect they're
feel
gonna
like I
do?
have a pretty clear trajectory over something I've heard recently.
I feel like Gene will still go out and like do like not vault tours, but something similar. Doing like acoustic shows with packages, making a package deal with whatever he's pushing, and
private audience deals.
Yeah, something
high
like
dollar private audience deal. What do you say?
What do you think for Paul?
For Paul, that's a tough one. I feel like Paul is. It's that thing where it's like the Rolling Stones, where they tour. Where it's like, why do the Rolling Stones keep touring? Well, what else are they going to do? I think Paul's kind of. I mean, this is just me making an assumption. I think Paul might be like that. That's the only guess I have, where he's just going to keep playing until he's done.
Well, he's done already. But
I know, but
I can't see him.
That's a guy that's not going to quit.
I can't see him drawing an audience.
Especially if you read his book, it's like that's a guy that's not going to quit. I think.
So, since I am a Kiss nerd, I listen to nearly everything that comes out, and even if I roll my eyes at it, I still like to at least hear everything. So, with Kiss Cruise 11, that happened. Anytime people upload videos of the Q&As, I listen to it. And of course, they're already promoting Kiss Cruise 12 and 13 and everything else, and that it's going to just keep going. But they did drop the bombshell that this was the last cruise that they were doing. This or one more, I forget. But either way, there's going to be a cruise where they do not do a makeup show. That they only do the sail away show. And that the rest of the events and everything happening after the sail away is Paul Stanley's Soul Station, the Gene Simmons band that's had Ryan Cook and those guys, Tommy, because of course I don't pay attention to what the fuck he does.
Black and Blue.
Black and Blue is going to play, and apparently he's had like this charity covers gig for the longest time that like Paul has joined in on, Eric's joined in on, so he's going to have his Tommy and Friends band on the cruise.
Oh, that's a good tax write-off.
So honestly, that's
a good point. Tax write-off.
Mm-hmm. So right there's your trajectory. Soul Station is going to take up Eric Singer and Paul Stanley. Gene's going to run off with his solo band, and Tommy's going to continue doing his charity work. Because again, we don't like him in the Spaceman makeup, but he does a lot for charity work. He does a lot for the community.
I have nothing personal.
I know, that's why I'm saying
him at all.
So it's like I feel he's just going to dig right back into his charity work and golf stuff and play his cover bands, and he's going to be happy with it. All power to him. But I think that's what's going to happen.
What does Eric do? Join another band?
No, Eric's going to be in Soul Station. He's already in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Soul Station takes up Paul and Eric. Gene will run off with Ryan and all the rest of those guys. So be it, Jeremy.
He's not going to be in Soul Station. I'll tell you why.
Here it comes.
He's going to go where the money is. Whoever writes the biggest check.
I thought you were going to say because he didn't have soul.
No. He's the only reason why he's in Kiss is because they're paying the biggest paycheck right now.
Well, he plays the
there
Soul
for a while.
Station's show.
I understand that, but
it's like he's not going to take a pay cut.
He's on a retainer, I'm sure, with Kiss. So long as they've got him on retainer and they're paying his bills, But I mean, there was a moment there where he was doing in his off time. He was touring with Alice Cooper still.
Yeah,
so
he was juggling both of those for a minute.
Eric Singer's gonna jump and go to wherever the next paycheck is. He's the most physically capable of the bunch, probably next to Tommy Thayer. There is, I think, it would not be surprising to see Ace and Gene touring together with that band. They shared the band. Ace picked up Gene's solo band. Yeah. Gene did those solo shows.
The Talisman guys.
I can see them doing, they will be the special guest, bottom of a 3-band bill somewhere, which is really kind of sad, but I
could see them doing some headlines of like maybe some clubs and theaters.
Yeah, but I'm saying
they could do a theater tour.
Maybe. I doubt it.
I doubt it. Theater tour.
I doubt it.
Ace still plays theaters. Think about it.
He plays clubs. When you say theaters, I'm thinking like every city that has a lot of the old Coliseums, they built an adjacent what I call a theater next to it. Like here in Charlotte, it's the Ovens Auditorium.
Right.
There's
I don't see
the
Gene
Carnegie
Simmons
Hall
playing
outside of the Norfolk
Ovens
Scope.
Auditorium.
There's all of them have. It's where the symphony would normally play, kind of
Got
thing.
it.
That's what I call a theater. It's a 3,500 seater kind of place.
Yeah.
They
See, the
couldn't do
theaters
that.
I've been to have been like, I saw PIL in a theater and I saw Slash in one.
Was that a Fox Theater in Atlanta?
I don't think so. It wasn't in Atlanta, I don't think. It was in Georgia somewhere.
Oh, okay.
But either way, that's the capacity that I've seen kind of felt like it would fit. And actually, I think I saw Ace in kind of like a theater-ish club, like a smaller theater.
Well, last time I saw Ace, he played at the Center Stage Theater in Atlanta, and I think that's a 1,500 capacity.
Yeah.
So that's not really a theater. It's still basically.
I think that's kind of roughly what I have in my head.
The Tremont Music Hall in Charlotte, which was just it had the grandiose name of Music Hall. It was a converted warehouse. The capacity in there was 999. I don't know. I mean, you can only speculate. I just don't see a demand there. I mean, it would be something that I might go see, but I don't see a demand there to be beyond an opening act for someone else.
You know who could be the opening act? It'd be the Ace and Gene band with the Bruce Kulick band as the opener.
No one would give a shit about that. That still wouldn't do.
Look, you say that, but
they wouldn't. I don't think they could do good.
You say that, but that has been the #1 rated band on all the Kiss cruises. Like,
That's
and I will say that myself
on the Kiss
too.
cruise. Where does he tour?
He's currently hitting it. He's about to start up a tour. He's currently booked one. Like, it's about to be the first tour.
We'll see.
I haven't seen that yet.
I just don't see any demand for it.
And it's got the guy from
venues.
Slash singing. I forget his name.
Oh, he's got because he has Slash's backing band. And they're fucking solid too.
Yeah, so he's got some A-listers behind him, and everything else. So I see him doing that because he plays like the deep cuts, whether it be like Paul Stanley solo stuff, his era of Kiss, and they beef it up to the point it's not as cheesy.
What kind of venues are they playing? Are they playing like Amos's size clubs?
Roughly, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to be playing clubs. That's the best they could hope for.
Package all of it together.
It'd still be club. I don't see.
It'd be an expensive club.
I mean, even just Ace on his own doesn't play but clubs. They did the Ace and Peter package together in 91, 92 or whatever. They played clubs. It wasn't. They weren't going to get into theaters.
That was also before the reunion.
But even I think at this point it's been so slogged down. And I saw Ace open for Alice Cooper a year ago, and it was pretty mediocre. I mean, it is what it is. The band he's got, it's a bar band. They can play. They're capable.
Better than that.
They're super cheesy. I mean, it was super cheesy. And it's just like, I'm just kind of looking at them going,
well, they're working guys. They're good,
right,
but they're working guys.
Yeah, and they were all capable, but it was just it was just like, I felt like Ace could have found. I felt like Ace had a band that was Ace's band, like the deal he had with Richie Scarlett.
That went sour really bad.
I know, and it's because he chose this cheesy bar band to be his backing band. But
Richie wanted more money.
But hey, you know what? That's fine. I'm just saying, whatever there was a synergy between those two guys that felt like they had a chemistry that a band has. Where this feels like that band that he has a chemistry amongst themselves, and then he's just stamped on top of it.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what it is, because that group just jumps around with a bunch of folks.
That's why I was saying earlier about how I think Ace and Peter could probably still gel. Because Ace's playing is kind of fucked up, Peter's playing is kind of fucked up, but it works.
No, but
it's that fucked up soup I talk about with bands.
I don't think Peter's going to be involved in this. I think it'll be, if anything, you'll see a Gene and Ace thing. Paul might do Soul Station. I don't see his voice sustaining for him to do stuff like that. Yeah, possibly. It'll be easier for him to sing, I think.
It's art.
But that I can see being like, I don't even see that doing any sizable, notable business.
He's going to try reaching a different audience.
I know, but I don't.
It'll be
I don't know.
Select markets for like.
He's not going to promote to a Kiss audience at all.
He'll do like destination spots. I can see that.
I can see him doing cruises and don't
singing
know.
Motown.
Special events.
Yeah, I don't know. And then the question, though, that I guess everyone seems to think is going to happen is that they're going to do a new model Kiss Point, 2.0, whatever.
But in your mind,
their
it'd be
own
4.0.
Yeah, but I'm saying, a continuation with 4 all new guys.
It's no different than an Elvis impersonator.
Yeah, but they're going to be. I'm wondering if they think they're going to be able to sell this thing as an entity that would create new music on their own.
So they've even kind of talked about that over the last few years, because since they have been kind of loosely talking about that since maybe like 2004, 2005. Because I remember that being like when the rumors of like a Kiss talent show, because that was like that Rockstar NXS stuff was happening. It was heavily rumored that Kiss was going to find replacements for Gene and Paul and carry out a new Kiss.
That would make sense. They could make a TV show out of it, just like
rumors
the same
had
thing.
It was about to happen, but the deal fell through.
No, you know what we got instead? We have an arena football team.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the TV show we got.
About that.
But
Talking about the 2.0 deal, they said, like Paul said recently, he goes, do I think that there's someone that can do a better Paul Stanley than me? No. But do I think that there's someone out there with a fire and a passion that can be the next talented frontman as a star child? Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's someone that can do the Star Child in the future. So he's even said that once he steps away from the stage, he's still going to be a part of Kiss, but in direction. And they talked about music. They asked him about that. They were like, what about music? And he goes, I don't foresee it. I foresee them continuing the legacy of what Kiss was.
Well, where are they going to play, though? My question is, the best I can see them...
At Myrtle Beach, at that little tribute hall, about maybe 5 miles from the ocean. You know which one I'm talking about?
Well, seriously,
they're
though,
going to open for Foreigner on a fucking shed
tour.
tour.
There is at least one successfully touring British Pink Floyd cover band.
Brit Floyd,
and they sell out places like ovens, 3,500 seat arenas or auditoriums, theaters or whatever. I'm thinking that would be the absolute best that this second Kiss, if they do that, could hope for. They would have to. It's a niche thing, but they'd have to be able to sell and plug into that niche market, and be able to do that. They would have to update their show every year. It'd have to be something different. They'd have to, tap into the old school classic Kiss catalog, because that's what's going to make it work.
It'd be interesting if they actually, because you know how all these TV shows and movies are getting reboots. I wonder if they treat it as like Kiss rebooted. And like for the first tour, they only played stuff off like the first 2 to 3 records.
Well,
and then like as that band progresses, they allow more and more into the discography.
What if they got somebody kind of sort of remotely popular to fill that role? Just to find somebody with a built-in audience, even if it's kind of small and makes sense with the fan base.
I think that breaks the illusion if they're wearing the makeup. So for instance, if they were to create a new Frankenstein movie, I'd want them to find an unknown. Because I wouldn't want to see through the makeup and know that just a guy sitting there going is a popular actor. Just find someone with a good facial bone structure to play the new Frankenstein's monster.
Well, it's interesting, but here you go. It's like they've never redid the classic Universal Frankenstein. Never, not in any really hard, serious, substantial way. Why have they not? I mean, we're talking about something it's what, 90 years old now? 90 years, and they still haven't been able to upgrade on Boris Karloff. Do we really? And nor should you probably. I think that there's even probably a conscious thought. I'm sure the powers that be at Universal have gone, time to we could reboot, and then somebody stops and goes, you can't. That's classic. You don't touch it. Maybe that's the attitude that they should take with Kiss, but they haven't. They've already tampered with it too much. So,
well, you got Kiss Mini Golf at least.
Wait, even more. You've got Mini Kiss.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that's not an official thing.
Yeah,
but it exists.
It does. Well, see, and here's the interesting thing, which is, and it's kind of this might wrap into our overarching question we've kind of had since the 70s episodes, which was who was the better manager, Bill Aucoin or Doc McGee? And also now, was Kiss right all along? Because think about it. They're possibly at the end of the road. They're talking about getting what we'll just call a Kiss 2.0, even though apparently the band shudders at that name. Right. We'll just use that. They've got full-on permanent features in places like Las Vegas, whether it be the mini golf, and now right next to the mini golf, Gene has moved because they personal lives. Gene's moved out of the house that was used for family jewels, so his whole collection section had to go somewhere. He's now opened up a museum with all of that stuff in it, where you can pay a fee, walk around, look at all his personal Kiss collection stuff.
Is that open already?
It's open already.
And that's in Las Vegas?
Yeah. It's near the mini golf thing. Honestly,
I do enjoy a good round of putt-putt.
and that is one of those really cool things, because he's got the original.
That's the way they should have done this anyway.
So, was Kiss right all the way back in the 70s? This is a Kiss world. We're slowly going to get to the point where Kiss is no longer the band. Kiss is a brand.
Right.
They will franchise the idea of the Kiss band. There will be an East Coast Kiss. There will be a West Coast Kiss. There will be an Australian Kiss.
I can see that.
There will be
who doesn't want to play in Kiss.
But here's the thing. I don't necessarily have a problem with these. All these concepts work for me only because it's not selling itself as Kiss. It's selling itself as an idealized, what you
Kiss
World thing.
And also, sorry to pile on top of it.
All of it really exists as a tribute to that original band, which I'm fine with, especially if it, particularly if it's done really well. The quality control is what you've really got to watch out for.
In another situation, just talking about it being a Kiss world and it just being the new Kiss brand, like it or not, those cruises really work for the Kiss brand, like the style of Kiss.
Yeah, but it's a niche.
So it would still be successful after they quit playing it. All of a sudden, now it's like, do we go on a Carnival cruise or do we go on a Kiss cruise?
Right.
So
now I don't think they could do a year-round.
Once a year, still
once a year,
but still, do we when we do our vacation?
That's a very niche thing, though. That is very niche.
It's still successful.
I know,
it's
but
still a successful niche.
It is a successful niche, but that's not something you build a market off of. That would factor into a grander scope of Kiss world.
And that's what I'm saying. And now you've also got something else that's successful, and only because it's successful do I say they're opening 5 more locations. Rock and Brews. Gene and Paul have a heavy hand in the financials of
That's
that.
in Dallas, right?
I'm sure they don't have a heavy hand in the actual operations of it.
In the financials of it.
They're invested in
it.
And they're using their name.
And Paul loves his money.
In fact, I would bet it's less.
Food,
I don't know if it's so much an investment. Is it? I don't know. Is they invested in that, or is that a licensing thing?
They're at the head of it.
I mean, and I've never been to one, but is that a Kiss themed restaurant? No. That's what I'm saying. I'm going back to Kiss.
Well, but what I'm saying though is that it's an easy gateway into Kiss though. So I just feel like the Kiss is going to be a new brand instead of it being associated with a band.
Well, that's what they've always wanted.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying I feel like all the way back then that they're going to get what they wanted. This Kiss world. We go on vacation. Let's play putt-putt. Do you want to do the pirate one? Do you want to do the spaceship one? Or you want to do the Kiss one? We're going on cruise. Do you want to do a traditional one or you do a Kiss one?
Yeah,
we're going out to eat. You want to go to Applebee's or you want to go to Rock and Brews? That's what I'm getting at. It's this weird thing where all of a sudden all of the options in your life could be a Kiss related option.
That sounds great to say, but I really have a hard time.
Does it?
Well, I'm saying for them, I'm listening. My point is what you're saying essentially is Walt Disney.
Yeah,
I don't see Kiss.
Coca-Cola.
I don't see Kiss ever having the market share of a Disney, or even the market.
What musician really does?
That's what I'm saying.
They would out of any band.
No, because there's nothing. The thing that I always bristle at is people will talk about Kiss's, marketing themselves so heavily, all the swag and everything. And really, Kiss doesn't do anything that the Beatles didn't do. They just had a closer hand on it because there were a lot of people selling Beatles unlicensed. There was no licensing back then. No one knew. That was uncharted territory back then. But the Beatles, there's nothing Kiss had that the Beatles didn't have, save a pinball machine. And and now you see all these other bands, they're doing the same thing. You can still, guess what? You Led Zeppelin nerds that want to hate on Kiss, you could buy a Jimmy Page fucking action figure, dude.
Yep.
You can buy a fucking Led Zeppelin shower curtain. This is all stuff that has become very commonplace now. But to have that same high profile visibility where and that, I know that's Gene's kind of fantasy is to be on par with Disney or Coca-Cola or whatever branding, but Disney is what I'm thinking of because Disney is so much more oriented on the same kind of level as far as having toys and what have you. Mm-hmm. I don't see them ever having that. I think they can create a niche market that would be something that they could brand worldwide in certain cities. I think that a Kiss tribute band, an official tribute band, a Kiss .20, whatever you want to call it, 2.0, whatever the fuck, that might do marginally well because people are going to miss it and want to see it for the same reason that Kiss tribute bands in the early 90s when they weren't doing the makeup thing, these bands satiated that desire.
Yeah.
But to not, they wouldn't be able to do really even the full staging of a classic Kiss show outside of an arena because doing that type of a show in the theater has to be scaled down just for local ordinances alone. I mean, you're not going to be able to see that full-scale bombastic Kiss show.
You can't set fireworks off in those places
anymore. And I
anymore.
don't think that a Kiss tribute band, and that's essentially what we're talking about here, is an official tribute band, is going to ever be able to headline arenas.
No.
Now, I have been proven wrong. I'm being proven wrong by the fact that Kiss still exists at all in the way they do, playing the way they do, being as bad as they are, and they're doing great. So who knows? Maybe they could pull it off. In another 5 or 10 years, it's Tommy Thayer, Eric Singer, and 2 new guys.
I think it would just be a brand new slate.
I wondered about that too.
I just don't see that being successful on a level where they could go tour anywhere. At the very, very best that you could hope for, and I've never seen it before, is their Kiss 2.0 as an opening act for another more established band. But have you ever seen a tribute band open for a more established band?
No.
It just,
But what? The tides may change. That may be one of those weird TikTok stars that, go on a big tour and they're like, hey, let's get a Kiss tribute band open for us.
And if there's one thing that Kiss has always enjoyed doing is proving people wrong. So who knows? I'm just saying, I don't think I would care for it. I don't mind the tribute band. I wouldn't mind, seeing a good tribute band. I haven't felt the desire to go see one since I saw Strutter, which is a Kiss tribute band. That was fun in its context, and it was fun at the time. But if they were to come around today, I don't care.
Yeah.
But then again, if Kiss comes around today, I don't care. Although I have to be honest, at this point, if I had the ability and the means, would I go see their final show?
The final
show that this is it. They're saying this is it. This is the final show. We're playing a final show. It's at Shea, they're not Shea Stadium anymore. That's torn down, but Yankee Stadium in New York or at Central Park or
somewhere with a major capacity.
Yeah, do I want to? Do I want to expend the time, money, and energy to go say, well, I saw the last ever Kiss show just because of my own latent Kiss nerddom from when I loved them so much?
I can't say I would.
I can't say that I wouldn't. And that's what's really disturbing to me. It's like I can't make
There's a part of you
there's
that
a
would
part of me that would still,
at least look
as
at the
much
tickets.
as I shit on them as they are now, it's like, it's just like, because it's such an ingrained part of my life that I grew up with, that, do I want to tap into even just that little shred of what's left to see it off, to say I was there, I was part of that,
My thought process on that, because I kind of put myself in that moment. I would immediately look at how much tickets were, kind of debate with myself on how to make it work. But then the creeping suspicion rolls in. Okay, this is their last show, New York City. But a couple years ago, they just toured, Australia, and less than a year later they said they're coming back. I would be so worried this wouldn't be the final show.
You know what?
You can't trust these bands either.
You know where I would definitely make up my if I had been lucky enough, because I saw their show on the next to the last ever show with the original band, for full original members, that next night in Charleston. If I had been at that show, I would be totally at peace with this. Yeah. I saw the last ever Kiss show because that was the last ever Kiss show. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Now people can argue. I don't care. You can argue till you're blue in the face. No, that show, October 7th or whatever it was, 2001. That was the last ever Kiss show. There has not been another Kiss show since. There has been the Variables. There's been the
Kiss World,
your lowercase Kiss that we joke about. But
and honestly,
if I had seen that show, then I wouldn't even be sitting here going, "Oh, sure." If I had seen that show, I'd be like, nah, "I'm good with it."
And you know what? And for me, that Motley Crue Kiss show was such a letdown. But then on the Kiss cruise, I kind of went in with my expectations and enjoyed myself. Like I sloughed away the, nose turn up and, all that stuff, and just let myself in the moment and enjoyed it. So you know what? I had a good memory seeing Kiss 2 nights in a row in a really small room that you could tell Gene and Paul could see your row. That kind of situation.
That
and I'm just
environment probably added to that. That's probably what made it. I could see myself maybe even trying to enjoy
crazy.
that.
It wasn't a fantastic performance, but exactly what you said, the vibe, the element, how small it was, and for the fact that, they genuinely could see everyone in the room, it made it something a little different. So I kind of don't want to taint that, because at first, my first Kiss memory was not a positive. My last Kiss memory on the cruise, seeing them 2 nights in a row, was a positive. I maybe just kind of want to leave it with that.
Yeah.
So which way do we think, though? Who was the better manager? Was it Bill Aucoin or was it Doc McGee?
I think it's 2 totally different things. Like, Aucoin was good at getting them through the door, and Doc McGee succeeded in keeping them
I
at
would
the
say,
party, or reintroducing them to the party.
I think Bill Aucoin, and not just because I'm a fan of the original band and everything, but I'm looking at some of the blunders that have been pulled since they've had Doc McGee, up to what we talked about, the whole debacle with the pay-per-view and all the tie-ins and stuff. It seems like they're I don't know. I've not ever been impressed with anything that he's done for them. I look at a lot of their ideas going, you're zigging instead of zagging. The stuff that seems obvious, they go the opposite direction.
I have respect for him because what he's doing is obviously working. They're still...
Well, I still can't help but appreciate the irony that their manager is a guy that got involved in management by being a drug dealer.
Well, his first
that was his deal. That was how he got involved. I'm your drug dealer. Oh, and now I'll be your manager.
For what? Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, and
before that was, I think
bands.
it was Pat Travers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't, but I'd just say, he's a convicted fucking drug dealer, right? It's just. It's only in Kiss, It's not only in Kiss, but only in rock and roll,
guys
I guess.
like that, too, are just kind of like their own beast, aren't they? Like, I watched that Eagles doc where they talk about Irving Azoff and how they got pulled over, or they were flying into a private island or something like that, and they were going through customs and were holding.
Right.
And then they all thought they were going to get busted or thrown in jail and stuff like that. But Irving Azoff goes in and bails them out. And they're like, I don't know what he said. I don't know what he said, but it worked. He may be Satan, but he's our Satan. That kind of thing.
Well, and I'm sure that's true for Doc McGee, but I'm just saying some of the stuff that they do just left me scratching my head. I don't think that he's steered them to any greater success. I think, again, it goes back to the power of their own inertia. They're to a point where they know they can enjoy a certain sizable amount of success, but again, unless they're, which we saw, we've outlined, unless they were partnered with a larger act, their attendance numbers haven't been great, unless they've used some sort of this end of the road thing. That's been a big plus for drawing people. It obviously worked.
Yeah.
And honestly, my answer to that is I think now I'm a little bit biased mainly because through my musical education, I've not done a lot of research in managers with different bands and how different managers may have steered the directions of, artists and, boosted their success outside of Kiss. So really, I only have Kiss as a reference point to use as a lot of background for managerial direction in a band like that. So when I look at Doc McGee versus Bill Aucoin, I feel like they were both very good managers for the time for different situations. And the reason for that, Bill Aucoin was an excellent ideas manager.
I was going to say Bill was a better creative manager.
He was not good with money.
He wasn't the good business manager.
Yeah.
But they had Carl Glickman and
well, even
Howard
then,
Marks.
they were kind of shady, and they didn't.
I don't think so. I think the band themselves wouldn't listen. They were told 1,000 different ways, 1,000 different times. Hey, you need to cut the spending here. You need to pull back. This isn't a financially viable process here. And the band was like, oh, whoa, we're going to make it bigger. We're going to spend more money.
Yeah. So Bill was a great ideas guy, and now you have to think about, as we outlined throughout the 80s and 90s, how they were in financial dire straits. I mean, they were already doing those semi-auctions, kind of selling some shit on the back end, and they were doing those conventions because they couldn't sell out stadiums and tours. So they needed a manager that was money-facing, that was really focused on the financials. And I don't know a lot of Doc McGee's history, but he seems to have proven himself through his time with Kiss. He knew how to market the band in such a way to get them the biggest payday. And the reason I even say that to this day is if you look at the people that get the meet and greet packages for the Kiss shows, they're not us. They're bankers.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, they have money.
They've promoted themselves to a different demographic. And Doc knows all those kind of people. So instead of being so front focused on us fans that might scrape up $20 to $50 to buy a box set or a CD, they're focused on the people that want the nostalgia trip that weren't major rock and roll fans that are like, oh yeah, we'll go see that Kiss band, and they've got the cash, so they get the meet and greet because they turn it into a business expense. Yeah. You don't know. I've seen in the message boards people talk about companies would buy Kiss meet and greet packages as bonuses for the group. So they were literally targeting banking people and people with a lot of money for these tours. So I think that Bill was a great ideas guy to get them into the zeitgeist, where McGee just knows those ins and outs of people with money and will promote to those people to keep the ship afloat.
Well, it's all Ringling Brothers at the end of the day, right? There's a sucker born every minute.
And you know what? And I think Doc echoes that, where he's just like, fuck it. Go see the Kiss show.
Yeah, well,
we're the hottest show on earth, right? Ringling Brothers, baby.
Yeah, well,
bring them in.
I guess it's brought us to where we're at.
Is it right or wrong? I'm not talking on that.
I know.
Yeah.
I agree.
Just
I
understand from the business aspect.
It works. That's what I'm saying. It works, but
he's been with them 30 years.
I don't think. But what is the last really substantial thing that Kiss ever did, barring the reunion? I'm just saying, as a band, what was the last time they released something where it was like an oh fuck moment where you were just like, this is fucking great?
I have the answer. Those new box sets that have been coming out, the Destroyer 45 edition, the new Creatures set looks really cool. All of these old collections where they're digging in
collections,
right?
The soundboard tapes that just came
out. Off the soundboard
I'm not
releases.
talking about reissues though. Well, let's go back to just as new product, new stuff, as this is where they're at in their point in history where it was an oh fuck moment. I don't think
the M&Ms.
Yeah, that's true. I just don't, and I don't mean this to sound. This is going to sound really condescending, and I don't mean it the way it does. I don't think either one of you guys lived through one of those moments.
Oh, an oh fuck moment.
Yeah, I mean, what y'all would consider an oh fuck moment would probably be very, very, very different for me.
Like for Kiss, again, I started getting into in the early 2000s, and like the first, they were already 50 at this point. Their reunion it just ended. Like I missed out on Ace and Peter completely, really, when I was really getting into them. and all I had to go buy were like the live albums, and the current thing at the time was that Kiss Symphony thing, and even then it was still just, you know, different from what, you know, gets you into them.
I don't think I lived through any positive oh fuck moments.
My real oh fuck moment was when Gene Simmons appears on the New Guy movie as the preacher.
Well, see, I remember the oh fuck moments of like the Kiss Online photo of Eric Singer, or watching that Dick Clark's American Bandstand anniversary show and seeing Tommy. Right. So I remember those oh fuck moments.
Well, I meant where you were
in a positive way. No, honestly, the only positive oh fuck moments I can really think of, even over since I've been a fan, have been over the last few years, and it's either been reissue related or something not related to the band, like those really cool old videos that, you know, have gotten released. Those were like oh fuck moments, because it's like cool little pieces of the archive that's coming out. It's nothing the current band is doing, though. Any cool oh fuck comes out of a reissue or some new footage that gets released.
I think that's very telling that at the end of the day, where even the Kiss Army, the fans are, when they had all those video leaks this year, it was all classic old school stuff. Anything that came out from like oh, here's a new Asylum thing. Oh, okay,
that's cool.
Well, here's a new thing.
We didn't know that existed.
Here's some left. Oh, look at this footage from 1975. Oh fuck!
They just
released and you can barely see it, and it jumps every 2 seconds. Oh my god, I want to see it.
Again, it just goes back to prove my point that it's all about the original band. 80s Kiss doesn't matter. 90s Kiss doesn't matter. None of anything post, you know, even the reunion tour, that only existed in its moment, and they shouldn't have gone past that. But on retrospect, after we've done now 40 episodes, and we've looked at their entire history, probably not to as great of degree as we've been told by some of our listeners, which is fine. But just for yourselves, now that you've re-examined the entire catalog, is there any things that you've changed your mind about, like something that you liked prior, you realized maybe you didn't like as much as before, or vice versa, something that you didn't like so much before that you've gone, well, you know, that's way better than I remember it being? We'll start with Cap.
Psycho Circus is probably the worst Kiss album for me.
Really? Okay.
I didn't realize I've never done like a full on, you know, listen. I think I listened to it all the way through like once before we did the revisit, and putting it back to back with all of the 80s releases and the 2000s releases. It's just like none of it just holds up at all. And it's that thing where it's just like, there's just nothing genuine about this. And it's just, I hated it so much. That was kind of like one of the big takeaways from the catalog. Mm-hmm. So I didn't realize I would dislike that one more than the 80s. And some of the 80s ones I've come around on, like I still catch myself singing King of the Mountain a lot, just cause.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
So it was Asylum was the one that probably stuck out for.
I think Asylum. Yeah, if I had to pick like an 80s Kiss record.
Well, any record. I'm just saying something you re-examined, that you reconnected with, or discovered that you.
Hot in the Shade is kind of one of those too, where I listening to it again for the first time in a while was one of those where it's just like, with the context and everything, kind of made it more interesting, but also just kind of, you know, as meh as the album is, like getting the context of everything kind of added to the experiences.
For me, honestly, I liked having my eureka moment when we were talking about Double Platinum, and I realized that the drum intro was slightly different because there wasn't a cymbal crash. And then when you go back and listen to the Rock and Roll Over, it's almost like
and the song.
It sounds like a weird cut on the cymbal crash.
On the song.
Dr. Love. Yeah. I thought I said Dr. Love.
Yeah, you said Double Platinum.
Oh, okay. Either way, so I like my little eureka moment for Double Platinum, Dr. Love drum intro. Something that I wound up having a new appreciation for wound up being, I think I talked about this on my, like, briefly, but I really like, the song name immediately escaped me, that's why I was buffering. Nowhere to Run. I think I
don't hate that one either.
I wound up getting a new appreciation for that song. I honestly, like, the more I've listened to it, and I think the reason why I like it is I've really, and I talked about this on the show too, my favorite of the solo albums is Paul's solo album. Mm-hmm. This song to me sounds like a continuation of what could have been on his record. It had a similar kind of chord progression, vocal melody, and honestly, it's a good vocal from Paul. So through all this, I just realized always kind of skipped over that song. So now I've become that fan you hate, Russ. I now through the show you've created a new defender of Nowhere to Run.
Kind of a sleeper choice for me that I really liked was Peter's. Like
part
of
Peter's
solo record.
Solo record. It's better than people give it credit for,
It
but
is.
you've got to look at it from a different point of view. Like I said, if you're coming into it from kind of that rock perspective, I'm surprised that, and we talked about this in the past, that the so-called yacht rock audience hasn't figured out that album exists. It's like a lost little jewel in that crown, I guess. A lot of the same session players play on it that are on all that classic yacht rock stuff, but
it also just reaffirmed my total disdain for Lick It Up, Animalize, and Asylum. To me, just that entire era, I can't like even Creatures of the Night. When we went through that episode, there's at least a couple I can pick through and be like, this isn't good, but in comparison to the previous 3 records, I would pick these songs, this batch of songs over the other ones.
They just did a re-release for that album.
Well, the box set.
Yeah.
Creatures.
Creatures.
Yeah.
Which it seems like it's a mishmash. It's got a lot of Lick It Up stuff, demos on it.
Yeah, well, they kind of had to play that era weird because there's some Lick It Up demos. There's also some Killers demos. And it was all because all of that era was so closely mismatched.
Yeah, I guess. But
and controversial take, if I had to pick an 80s Kiss record, Crazy Nights.
Okay.
There's some fun power pop on there.
Very Ron Nevison-y.
I think Sonic Boom proved to be the lowest, the worst of all Kiss records, and right neck and neck is Hot in the Shade for me. I think the album that I found myself reconnecting with, surprisingly, it was Lick It Up. There are things on it that I really don't like. I think it's got the absolute worst Kiss song on it, which was "Gimme More."
Are You Cool and the Breeze?
I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that song. I don't really care for Vinny's style of playing, even though I understand what the idea was behind it, and same with Bruce Kulick and all through that 80s stuff. And I have always felt that if they stayed true and stayed in a straight line, Crazy Nights was probably the most true Kiss type record of the 80s.
Yeah.
I can see that more in lineage to the Unmasked and Dynasty than I do anything else they did.
Yeah, because I also, it was before we started the show, but I have like this weird love for Unmasked. The production, the songs,
I like
the
Unmasked.
production. So yeah, I find it funny you kind of connected those dots because I've kind of thought that, but at the same time, Kiss nerds like drawing weird connections. So yeah, I'd agree.
But I realized while we did this show, I forget, there was an episode where I think he even made a comment about it where I was like, maybe we're not Kiss nerds. Maybe I'm not a Kiss fan after all.
I think that was the Alive 35 episode.
But I've realized that it's like there is a point where it was just like it just stops being anything special or interesting to me. I don't see them in the same light as I did when I was young. And I think, I was able to, had the good fortune of having a couple of years, the tail end of that, watching that comet streak across the sky. And, it's like, did you see Halley's Comet? No. Well, guess what? You're not gonna.
I saw Fraley's Comet.
Yeah.
Oh, God damn it.
I just opened the door to that.
Yes, you did.
But you understand what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, well, what was it like?
I don't think there's been a musical act that's been like that for like my lifetime.
I mean, I think there's the Beatles, I feel like, I come away with this kind of feeling a little bit disappointed. I've given a lot of energy and effort into something that I realized that I only like a period of time from. But I had hoped as we went through this that I would discover something that I didn't know or had previously overlooked or somehow didn't have the open-mindedness to appreciate. I was really hoping I was going to find, like, I had never listened to Hot in the Shade before.
Right.
And I was like, that was the one I think I was most hoping. I'm like, man, maybe there'll be
about
something on here,
I felt like that with Revenge.
I thought maybe that was Revenge. And it's just so, it's not good. and you know,
this podcast has made me fucking hate Kiss.
well, I don't hate them, but I just, you know, it just reaffirmed what I already knew, and I didn't go into it that way. And I know a lot of people might disagree with that sentiment, but I honestly thought maybe exploring all these other eras of Kiss that I would find something or rediscover something that I missed. I don't think I have. I think if anything, it really just reinforced that love I have for the original lineup, for that original time. And I really don't have time or energy or interest into exploring this, you know, any of this other stuff now. And it leaves me in that weird spot. Would I pay money to go see them play that final show? You know, the part that loves that era, that wants to touch that last spot, wants to do that, but there's the other part of me.
Russ has to go, but that's not what's happening.
And that's not what's happening. And plus, I'm consciously aware that that's not the band, and even if they play marginally good, it's still not great. It's not going to be the great experience that I want it to be. And I know I'll walk away feeling pretty anticlimactic, so I'll probably avoid it. But that's just me. I'm just one opinion. Everyone else's mileage may vary. But such as it is in the world of Kiss, and this has been quite a little ride, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It's been a blast.
It's been interesting to hear y'all's perspectives coming from different eras and different outlooks.
How has our experience shaped your opinion of Kiss? That you're getting the feedback from a different generation.
I don't know. It would be something I probably won't think on until later. I don't like to go back and listen to these shows when we do them because I hate the sound of my own voice.
I really don't either.
You know, once they're done, I'm sure that in another couple of years, I might get curious and go back and listen to this. I know that each one of y'all have made valid points that I had not considered. I can't pinpoint any individual thing, but I know there have been times where I was like, you know, I never thought of that, but that's a really good point.
And one of the things, and to toss that right back to you, the way you will timeline things and put certain things in perspective also kind of helps contextualize things that maybe they don't directly say. That kind of helps read between the lines and kind of explain maybe their methodology and the reasons for doing things. So I would say you brought a lot to the table in educating me on stuff that I already knew, but putting it in order to make sense,
right?
If that makes, because it's like, you know, during 77, 78, we knew there was a lot of merchandising and weird stuff going on in the back end, but timelining everything makes it be like, oh, so that happened, therefore this happened, so this reaction was this, and it just made it a lot more cohesive.
I've been kind of doing this podcast, made me kind of get curious about watching content with like bands that have longevity and what it took to keep the longevity, like Aerosmith, for example. They have everything about them was documented and stuff like that, and that's all over YouTube. So that's kind of what this podcast has done for me with my interest in other bands that have stuck around longer than they should, but Steven Tyler can still sing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. That's a hard thing to watch, to see Paul Stanley's voice go and him so stubbornly just, you know, kind of almost stoically soldier on through it.
Yeah.
And
makes jokes about it, claims he doesn't do it.
You're talking about the lip sync. It doesn't matter if he's lip syncing. If he's lip syncing to his own voice, it's a bad vocal track to begin with. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's bad. And he's just doubled down on bad otherwise. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry. It's the same thing that we said. That's like, I love Peter Criss. I think Peter Criss was the Kiss drummer. I think that when, you know, I have this idea that it's like when the Ramones replaced Tommy Ramone, it completely changed their sound because the drummer they brought in, which was Marky, played a much heavier handed style. You know, that lighter style, then it's just something that, you know, and like Tommy did certain things in fills. He didn't use fills, but he was doing stuff that if you're not paying attention to it, you'll never notice it. But when you notice how he just going from a closed hi-hat to an open hi-hat without going to a ride. I mean, little things like that Marky doesn't do.
He played in Dust before the Ramones.
Well, but Marky is a great drummer. Yeah. When you say that, it's like people go, oh, you think he's a shitty drummer. I don't think Eric Carr was a shitty drummer at all. I just don't think he was a good Kiss drummer. I don't think anybody's a good Kiss drummer. There's only one good Kiss drummer, Peter Criss. Or
There's
someone
only
that
one
plays
good Kiss guitarist.
I mean, it is what it is. The best comment was that I could think of was about the Who. Kenny Jones, who was the replacement for Keith Moon, said, and this is in the last 10 years, it's in a documentary they put out, and he was like, there is no good drummer for the Who except for Keith, and you can't get him. And that's the guy that replaced him.
And he's like,
that's the guy who played in the Who, and he's saying there's no good drummer for the Who except for Keith Moon. And that takes a lot of I forget what the word is, altruism, I guess, to openly concede that.
I did see an interview with Eric Singer before. We talked about taking on the role of the drummer of Kiss, going like, I don't play like Peter Criss.
Yeah, he doesn't, and he shouldn't. But
yeah.
I'm just saying, but for me as a fan, as the guy that wants to go see that, I wanted a particular. That's the band I love. That band. It was that chemistry. It was those four guys. That's the band I loved.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, all you Kiss nerds that love all the rest of it and say it's the same thing and all that. Fuck you. Bullshit. It is not the same thing.
All right, calm down, Paul Stanley.
No, I'm just saying. Imagine if Ringo Starr had quit the Beatles in 1968 or 67 or whatever, and they got John Bonham. Before,
it'd be a different vibe.
It would not be at all the same. It just wouldn't be the same.
I agree.
That's where I'm at with that. But we've talked about that ad nauseum on this show, and I'm just closing it with the same old shit. But
hey, it's been an awesome ride with no time to turn.
Yeah. I'm not trying to, preach, but I guess we run the show pretty long here. But I guess
it's a final episode.
It was a final episode.
Be a little long.
Yeah. I just want to say, for everyone that listened, that kept up with it, and it's been shocking to me, and that's not. I don't say that flippantly. It literally has surprised me just how far-reaching this thing has proven to be. I've gotten I've people in Australia. A guy named Mark in Australia, so hello to you. There's a guy down in, I think, Mississippi, Alabama, Dennis. We've talked about him on the show before.
And always comments on the Facebook page, awesome ratings through the iTunes and everything. We really appreciate you guys.
There's a lot. I mean, we can't name everybody by name.
Not.
But
thanks for commenting and everything and putting in your 2 cents on everything we put out, too.
I've honestly thought we would be lucky if we had like 15, 20 people listening to this on the regular, and some of the shows, I guess, have been as many as, 200?
Yeah. It's weird to talk numbers, but yeah, at the very end of last time I checked, there was like about maybe 7 or 8 episodes that had crossed the 200 mark, and we're well on their way to 3.
There's probably some out there going, 200, that's nothing. That is maybe nothing to you, but for us who just are sitting here on a Sunday afternoon thinking we might could get 15 of our friends to listen to us. It's pretty fucking insane.
Yeah.
We're
gracious for every single person. So 200 listens on a show. Fuck yeah, that's awesome.
I did not achieve my hope that I would get like shit talked on the Kiss FAQ board.
No, they loved us there.
I wanted so badly for someone to be like, fuck those guys.
No, it'll happen like 10 years later. It's like, did y'all hear about this fucking bullshit?
I will say, I honestly was expecting it on our Sonic Boom episode, because that's the worst we had ever been attitude wise with Sonic Boom.
Well, hey, that album sucks.
But I was expecting some words on that, but no, we didn't see anything.
But for real, thank you to everyone that listened to this. I told myself I wasn't going to cry. No, I'm not. I'm kidding.
Because it's not technically the full end. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but
we
something
have
might
gotten
happen.
A surprising amount of feedback asking us to continue. What are you going to do when you reach the end? Well, we're working on that. And so kind of maybe keep your eyes and ears open, because we may return with something different. It will not necessarily be Kiss related, but
there'll be some Kissisms here and
there'll
there.
always
It'll
be Kissisms. That's what kind of brought us together to begin with.
Yeah.
It was on the Something Good For You podcast, and y'all had me on twice, and both times we ended up spending sizable amount of those episodes talking about Kiss. There is a lost episode of No Time to Turn that isn't No Time to Turn. It is Is it Something Good For You, where you talk about the Kiss cruise?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not a lost episode.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
though.
yeah,
It's a
found episode.
It was. I'm just saying.
Extra episode.
It's a
under
bonus.
different names.
It's an Easter egg bonus episode. If you go look at the archives, you'll find there is an episode where we talk at length about Alex's experience on the Kiss cruise.
Well, see, when you said lost episode, to peel back the curtain some, we recorded the first episode like 2 to 3 times. So that's what I thought we recorded like once or twice, and you're like, I want to do it again.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. So that's why I thought you were talking about like
I didn't.
one of those
I don't remember doing that.
You made me delete it.
I did.
Yeah. You're like, no, delete those. I want to do it again.
I vaguely recall this.
But it doesn't surprise me. That's the only time we would have done that, though.
Because I remember also just going like, Russ, it's good. Let's just release it. We need to get episodes out. We need to keep going.
Yeah. Well, here we are, 18 months, 40 shows.
That's right.
That was a good run, y'all.
Yeah, I feel more professional. There was a time where I forgot to listen to an album. I got my schedules wrong. It was the Carnival of Souls.
Did you listen to it?
I did. No, but it was like we had to postpone it because I forgot that it was like the day of. Yeah. I'm like, oh, fuck, I got to listen to that.
God, I forgot about that record already.
Yeah, same.
Jesus, that was a bad one, too. Well, I can't, anyone that sat through that,
I did it.
The record or our episode?
Both. Bravo too. We'll see where we go. We were talking and planning on something new, and hopefully it'll be special and enjoyable. So we'll see what happens when that time comes. But
a few months. Give the holidays some chance to breathe. Everything else.
Well, with this has been No Time to Turn. I'm Russ. So for Cap and Alex, we say thank you.
Thank you very much.
And good night.
Thank you for listening. Please insert another coin by supporting the show for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/somethinggoodnetwork.